Well, welcome to you guys. So we've got a few more that hopefully will be joining us shortly. So I think, you guys have come across me before, and as a bit of an introduction to who I am, what I do. Oh, hang on a sec. Where have you gone? Lost you. Too many screens. There we go. Good. So you can see the screen okay?
Yep.
That's all there. Excellent. Good. So it's a little bit about me. ActionCOACH been around nearly 30 years, I think, and is one of the world's largest business coaching organisation. This is my book, The Big Dipper. You can see it's behind me, and I'm pleased to say that it will be out on audiobook on Monday. So I've just been given the nod that it's up on Audible and iTunes and audiobooks, which is really good. And was lucky enough to get Mike Reed, the Radio 1 DJ presenter, to actually co-narrate it with me. So
cool.
he's narrated the story bit, which is really nice. So looking forward to that getting out there.
I've just finished it, Kevin, and it was quite readable, shall I say?
Excellent.
Business management book. Obviously, there's lots of useful info in there, but it was readable as well. Yeah,
I wrote it to be a nice, easy read. I mean, it's only 3.5 hours, I think, on the audio as well, so it's not a long book. And hopefully it gives you sort of a sense of some of the key mindset things that we need to cover when we are growing businesses, and relevant to what today's talk is all about.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've helped many hundreds of businesses to actually grow on this journey, this roller coaster ride that we're on, and using the ActionCOACH business growth models, a lot of the tools from ActionCOACH, but also from other places as well. We use a lot of external. We've actually got training with Uri Geller tomorrow. So Uri Geller's doing an hour's workshop for us. So I'll be bending spoons by Sunday. So that should be fun. And the key thing to this is, as a coach, same as a sports coach, a business coach is there to help you win your game. Now, the only difference between, I see, business and sport, is the fact that in sport, the goal is generally set for you. There's a league that you win, somebody else has set it, somebody else has set the rules. When you run your own business, it's all down to you. You are the one that actually has to set it. So that, in a way, causes some of the issues that we'll all come across as we go through today. So, a little quiz for you. As we've got a small group, we will make it a little bit interactive. So there is a chat box there. So if you prefer just to chat rather than talk, then please do that. Otherwise, you can just, if you push your space bar, it'll just unmute you for a few seconds while you talk, and then you can let go your space bar. So how many businesses do you reckon, last 15 years? What percentage of businesses you think actually make it to the past 15 years old? What would you guess be? So you put it in a chat box if you want. We'll do it a little bit like that. Oh, I've got to open my chat box now.
So I just noticed my children had renamed my Zoom name, and so I've sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Put something strange in there.
Something inappropriate. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. That's nicely changed. So 5% make it past 15 years. Okay. So looking on the sort of the negative side,
that's interesting. 30%.
About 30%. Okay. So you're right. It's somewhere between those two. It's roughly around about 20% according to the stats. So 80% of businesses that are started up will fail within 15 years. So it's quite a big percentage that don't actually make it. And this is not to a certain size. This is just businesses that succeed or fail, whichever it might be. So that's what we're up against. The majority. So if you've been going over 15 years, then hats off. You're 1 in 5 that make it to that point.
Sorry, Kevin. Could some of that be, because my accountant tells me that there's an entrepreneurship tax thing, and that if you wind a company up, you can take the money out at a lot lower tax rate?
Yeah. that if you wind it up within 15 years, if you've built it and then you're ready to shut it down and get your money out, then yes, you'll be one of these. So this would include business sales, would be in here, but the majority, around about 1 to 2% of businesses actually get sold. Yeah, the majority will fail. Yeah, at some point the owner will just get fed up and it's just not working. Some will make a good bit of money and then wind it up, as you say, and pull the money out. But if you think about most people that start businesses are generally in their 30s, 40s. I think the average age of a startup is probably around about 40 years old. So that takes them to around about 55. So you'd be looking at a lot of businesses looking to last a lot longer than 15 years. So, but the interesting stat that goes along with this is actually how many of those businesses get to be bigger than $1 million turnover. So again, use your chat box. What would you say the number that would get past $1 million turnover? So this is $1 million turnover, around about 10 employees. What percentage do you think would get to that level? So 7%, yeah. 1%, Damien?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. 20% from Andy. Okay, so you're in the right ballpark. So, and this is from a survey I did. So I pulled out all the companies in Companies House, and looked at where the size of those businesses from that. So there was about 75% employed less than 5 people. Okay, so that's around about 250,000 turnover. Okay, so 75%. 20% were about the 250 to $1 million, and 4% were between 1 and 5, and less than 1% were over 5 million. So only 5% of business startups, actually crack the 1 million turnover. So this is why, when we look at this and think, well, why is that? What is stopping these businesses? These are not, bad business, not necessarily bad business. Some will be, but they're not necessarily that. What is it that stops that? The majority of businesses get into a size where they're above that 1 million, and that's really what we've got to think about. Is so if we understand why that's happening, then we can do something to actually stop ourselves falling down the same traps. So what would you say? What would some of the things you think would stop a business getting past the 1 million turnover?
They're run by technicians rather than people who want to lead a business.
Okay, yeah. So the business owner, is a technician. They like doing what they want to do, so they never really sort of set about to do that. So desire, yeah. So it's, and I think that's the thing, because to my mind, there's sort of a bit of a fallacy, a growth myth, that a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't grow because I don't have the cash." Yeah, I can't grow because I don't have the people. There's no people to actually help me grow, or I don't have the customers. I can't get the leads in. I can't get the business in. So these are all myths, because is there enough cash in the world to help businesses grow? Yeah, there is cash. You might not have it right now, but if you're clever, if you work at it, you can find it. Can you find people to work? Yeah. I mean, certainly now there's a lot more people now than there was 6 months ago. So it's not the people that is stopping you growing, and it's definitely not the lack of customers. Because if you have a product to sell, there are customers out there. If you don't have a product to sell, well, you don't have a business, so you shouldn't be in business in the first place. So these are just myths. These excuses of why we're not growing. The number one reason to growth is actually the business owner. Okay, it's the business owner's knowledge, their desire, their ability. It's always the glass ceiling that the business owner puts on their business. Okay, there's always a way. So if we understand this, that would mean that any business can grow. I'm not saying every business can grow to multi-millions, but every business has the ability to break that £1 million barrier. Okay, to employ more than 10 people. You know, every business should be able to do that in one shape or form. So if we understand that it is about us as the business owner, you've got to take that responsibility and sort of look in the mirror and say it is us. Then the biggest thing, the biggest factor, when I go and see businesses for the first time and I ask them, so where do you want to be? What sort of business do you want to build? On the whole, I don't get a great answer. I don't get an answer that is certainly I want to build a multi-million pound business. I often get that with the youngsters, the 20-year-olds. I've got one guy, he's 26 years old. He wants to build a 50 million pound business. There's that bravado when you're young, that sort of don't care, let's go for it. As we get older, and sometimes we sort of lose that dreaming ability. And our goals become a lot more sort of, just making us happy, keeping us content, that sort of thing. So that's one of the key things to this is, over the years, and obviously Damien's read the book, and this is a big part to what I teach, is this little formula: be times do equals have. So it's a formula for success in anything in life, be it sport, be it business, be it your your love life, it doesn't matter what it is. These three things must stack up. You must have all of these three things to be successful. So the have is dream and the goal. What is it that you actually want? What is that dream that you're aiming for? What are the goals that you're setting for yourself? Then you've got to have that attitude and knowledge. You've got to have the learning and the belief that you can actually achieve the goals that you're setting yourself, and then gain the skills to do it. And then you've got to put that knowledge into action. If you just get the knowledge and do nothing, then you won't go anywhere. You've got to be prepared to fail as well. You've got to be prepared to take some risks in this. They say in football, you miss 100% of the goals you don't go for. So even if you aim for the goal and you miss, you've still got a chance of scoring. But if you never strike at the goal, you never score. So it's actually putting that into action. So of these three things, on the basis of what I've just been talking about, you've got to have all three, but one of these three is more important than the other two. Chris, any idea which one is the most important out of those three? Who do we need to be? What do we need to do? Or the goals?
I would say the goals.
The goals, excellent. Yeah, the goals always. People that say, it's the do, that's what I would call the busy fool syndrome, that you're always doing stuff. You're on the hamster wheel running faster and faster and faster. But where are you going? What's the goal that you're trying to achieve? How much knowledge and extra skills are you gaining so you do better rather than just do the same? So the goals are the most important. So if you want to build a £1 million business, you've got to understand what a £1 million business looks like. You've got to start thinking, right, so that would mean I've got to employ 10 people, I've got to have this number of customers, I've got to have this type of office, I've got to have this type of manufacturing, whatever it is. Because if you can't visualize it, you can't materialize it. There's a little phrase you might want to write down, IVVM: idealize, visualize, verbalize, materialize. So first it needs to be an idea, a dream. You've then got to visualize it, and put some substance on it, which becomes the goal. Then you've got to verbalize it, be able to talk about it, share that with other people, and then it can actually happen. And we don't spend enough time when we start our business, let alone through the life of our business, actually thinking about what type of business we want to build. We just jump on the hamster wheel, we start running, we bring in enough work to pay the bills, to get us to comfortable, and that's generally where we stay. So we get to a point where we grow and then we plateau, and that's why we never break the £1 million, because we never set it out as a target. The danger if we set it as a target is we might fail. We may never get our business to 1 million. But at least we had a chance of doing it if we set out with that intention. If we don't set out with the intention, then we're most likely to stay as we are unless a wave comes along and takes us towards where we want to go, which does happen. I've got a couple of businesses that have done that, and they didn't set out to be £1 million businesses, they just turned into them. Okay, but they will also reach their plateau at some level where there is potential to go even higher than that if they wanted to. So this little sort of concept, a dream, a dream written down becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan backed by action makes the dream come true. So this is that process we've got to do, but we've got to start with that end in mind. We've really got to start thinking about what is it we want from our business. So the first question, to you all is, why are you in business? What do you want to get out of your business? Why did you start it? What were the key things that were in your mind when you started on your business and you want to get out of it? So Chris, do you want to share one or two of those?
Yep. So started my business nearly 30 years ago to do what I love to do. Mm-hmm. That was the initial inspiration, to work in with my lifestyle and what I wanted out of life. Yep. So that was the reason that I started it. Now I am building the business for my two daughters to take over and run and give me an income in my retirement.
Cool. Right. So you've set your goal, and to all intents and purposes has achieved that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's just proves that you set a goal, if that's what I want it to be, and that's what it can achieve. If we add on to that the £1 million turnover, if that's what you wanted, then that would be fine. But I'd even say, well, why would you want to build £1 million business? Why does it need to be bigger? You don't have to do this. Okay, but if we've got clarity what that would be, then it really does help us achieve it. So, Andy, what about you? What were your goals when you sort of started on your own?
I guess part of my goals were to get away from just sitting in a chair running a factory or or an operation. I'm an engineer. I'm an ops guy by training, with a low boredom threshold. So my sort of raison d'etre was to go out and fix businesses, help businesses get more efficient at what they do, and ultimately earn enough money to be able to retire in sort of 3-4 years time. Cool.
Excellent. Okay, so there's there's a similarity to Chris. I want to do something I love doing, and we talked about sort of what I would call the technician's curse, is they start a business in something they know and they love doing, so they can be destined to do that job for the rest of their lives, which can again be part of the glass ceiling. So Damien, what about you?
Basically, I fell into it more than anything because I left the job I was in. I joined a partnership that fell apart after 6 or 7 months, and it was a choice of find a job or keep going out on my own, which I chose to do 7 years ago. It's still here, and now it's turning into a retirement plan.
So often it's we start a business because it's the alternative is more painful. I don't want to do this, and therefore I'll start my own business. I don't want to work for an idiot boss. So I'll start working for a complete lunatic, which is myself. So we've got to start thinking, right, so whatever it was that got you to here, if we are thinking about growing £1 million business, there's got to be a reason why we want to go, because it ain't easy. Most businesses don't ever make it. I've already said, 95% of businesses don't make it to past £1 million turnover. So if we want that, we've got to have a real strong why we want to build something that big with that many people around us. So one of the key things to think about, is this sort of timeline. So this is where we are now. So this is now, and this is where we want to be, at the point of our death. Because the only thing that is guaranteed in life is we're going to die. They used to say there's only two certainties in life: death and taxes. Well, Facebook and Google have proven that taxes are optional. But death is still inevitable. But at some point before we pass our mortal coil, we want to be able to leave something behind, a legacy. Now that might be to the cat's home for Andy, the dog's home for Damien. It might be your children, but there's something we want to build and say, look, I built that, and that's there for me. Okay, that's there for the sort of the next generation, as it were. There's this sort of time frame, this sort of point in time where we want to start thinking about retirement. This sort of point where we have a position of financial freedom, after which point we can choose whether we work or not. Okay, so retirement isn't an age I have to work till I'm 60, 70 years old and then I stop work and my brain withers away and I just do nothing but sort of knitting or playing balls. So for me, it's a financial freedom point. It's a point in time where I have enough assets invested that the income from that can therefore look after my life. So during this time, I want to build wealth and have fun. I want to do something I enjoy doing, but also build wealth. And here, I'm going to live off the passive income and have even more fun because I've got more time. Now, the question is, not so much when is this, but at what point, how much do you need invested to be able to do that? So when Brad Sugars, who started ActionCOACH, learned all of this stuff that I'm teaching you now, he was 16 years old. At the age of 19, he started buying businesses because he wanted, in his mind, this point here, I can actually use my pen, this point here, sorry, sometimes my pen works and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. So this point here, he said, I want to get there at the age of 25. He's 19 years old. 6 years' time, I want to be financially free and never have to work again. Okay, he failed. He didn't achieve it. Yeah, he was 26. Okay, so 26-year-old, I think he had 2.5 million quid in the bank account. And at that point, he could invest that and live off the funds of that for the rest of his life. He chose not to. He chose that wasn't enough for him. His have was much bigger, and much, he wanted far more than that. And so he just keeps setting himself bigger and bigger goals, and now lives in an amazing mansion in Las Vegas, drives, whatever car he wants to drive and does whatever he wants to do. And he's still only 51, I think he is. He's about a year younger than I am. So now we can't go back in time and go, I wish I could retire at the age of 25 because I'm only going on what I see in front of me on the screen. 25 is a couple of years ago for all four of us. What we can do is say, look, it took him 6 years to do it. The average length of time to build £1 million business is probably around about 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Now, some businesses do it quicker, but that's sort of the average. So if we've still got 5 to 10 years left in us, then we should be able to build £1 million business. But again, the question is, why do I want to build £1 million business? What difference is that going to be? What impact is that going to have on this? Okay, so the first question we have to ask ourselves is, for that retirement to happen, how much do I actually need? So what I want you to do is I'm not going to ask you to share this because obviously this is being recorded, but I want you to write down on a piece of paper, if you were to retire tomorrow and never have to work, not have to trade time for money, how much money would you like to have on an annual basis coming into your bank account to spend to do what you want to do? And I'm not talking here about an existence. I'm not talking about merely getting by. you're young enough to still enjoy yourself, to still go on holiday, still travel, still do the things you want to do. How much money would you need to have? Okay, so just say, I don't want you to share it because I think that's private for everybody.
You mean how much income? How much income annually?
Annually, yeah. So let's say for me, it would be I could live quite comfortably on 50k a year. That would all the things I want to do, holidays I want to have, eat at the restaurants I want to eat at, do whatever I want to do. Okay, so that would sort of, if I said that was my figure. If that isn't enough, there's two of us and we like to go on bigger, better holidays, then that might be 100k. Okay, this is sort of household income. So this is for you and your partner, and I'm assuming at this stage the kids have left and gone and done their own thing. You're not having to look after the kids anymore. Okay, so for some people I know it's 200,000. They've got very expensive lifestyles. They love spending money, so it needs to be a bigger figure. And what we've got to understand though is, in order to get that the passive income coming into us, we need to have invested into our nest egg a chunk of money to achieve that. Now, if you said on average, if I invested in a number of sources, property, stocks and shares, what percentage return on investment could I expect roughly? Andy, any ideas? This is a safe investment, not a risky investment.
7%.
7%. Yeah. Chris, with your counting head on?
Yeah, 7 or 8%.
7 or 8%. Yeah. I mean, 7 or 8% is achievable. You tend to have a bit of risk with that. So if you look at commercial property, probably around about the 5% mark. The safest investment you can get is you can go and get an annuity, which will guarantee you an income for the rest of your life, and you'll be around about the 2 or 3% for those. So very, very safe will be 2 to 3. A little bit of risk will be 7 to 8. So if I settle for 5%, okay. Can you see my drawings on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I said 5% and I want £50,000 income per year, how much do I need invested?
£1 million pot.
£1 million. If I want 100,000, how much do I need invested?
2 million.
2 million. If I want 200,000, how much do I need?
4 million.
Okay. So just by understanding, how this works, we've suddenly said, right, if I just want to replace the income that I'm earning now of 50,000, I need to have invested £1 million. I would say, right, well, how much have I got now? Now, one thing for this is your personal house can't count in this unless you're going to downsize at some stage and release some equity, because your house does not generate your cash. So you have to live somewhere. So if you've got £1 million house and you're downsized to a £500,000 house and you've got 500,000 towards this, that's okay. You might have some inheritance that might come along, but parents are living longer and longer, so I probably wouldn't count that either. Cars, boats, planes don't count because they're depreciating assets, unless you're renting them out. So really we're looking at stocks and shares, ISAs, pensions, and property. Oops. And property. Okay. So we'd say, right, at the moment, say I've got 300,000 invested. So my gap between here and here is 700,000. So I now need to know that I've got to put together some way of actually generating £700,000 of cash in order to invest in assets to then provide me a passive income. Now, if you're in business, I would guess that the source of that income is going to be your business. So either I've got to earn enough surplus revenue over the next, 5, 10 years to put, so if I was going to do that over 10 years, I've got to put £70,000 excess income into my investment. So on top of what I'm actually drawing out. So if I'm drawing out 50k to live on, I need £120,000 profits from my business in order to achieve this. Which some businesses can do that. Fantastic if you can. Many businesses would struggle to do that. So the alternative is I've got to build my business to a point where at some point in the future I can sell it for £700,000 or £1 million. So this is why I say the reason you'd want to build a £1 million business is not to build a £1 million business, it's to give you the chance of selling an asset for £1 million. Because if I can build a business over the next 5 or 10 years that could be valued at £1 million and sell that, I can put the £1 million then into my investments, and then I can live off the income and interest of that. So the first thing we've then got to sort of look from there is, well, okay, if that's the case, how are businesses valued? How do I know how big my business needs to be in order to sell it for 700,000, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million pounds? So Chris, as an accountant, how are businesses valued?
Oh, lots of different ways that you can value a business, but generally based on, I would say, assets and goodwill.
Assets and goodwill. Yep. And how is goodwill calculated?
Again, different ways, but it really depends on the type of business. So it could be a multiple of the goodwill invested in the business, or sometimes a percentage of the income.
Yeah. I mean, the main way that businesses are valued is a multiple of profits. Okay, because a business is only worth something if it's going to generate profits into the future. The more secure those profits are, the more I'm willing to pay for that business. So if I've got a business that makes £100,000 a year, which is guaranteed, steadfast, it will never lose any money, it will make 100,000 for the next 10 years. Yeah, then I know if I invest in that business, I pay £1 million for it. Every year I'll make 100,000 and I'll get my money back in 10 years. That would be a good investment for me. If it had no track record, if it wasn't making any money and it was never likely to make any money, then my goodwill, my multiple would be 0. So you have this multiple of profits, and the term that is often used, you'll hear, is a thing called EBITDA. Earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation. So depreciation, amortization. Okay, I'm not going to go into how it works. Give Chris a ring; she'll tell you how to calculate that. But in essence, it's net profit. Okay, that's easy. It's net profit before any dividends and taxes paid out.
There's a new version actually. It's called EBITDA.
EBITDA.
Yeah, the C is COVID.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, very, very true. You take out the COVID effect on it. So, and then you'd add in the net asset value. So as Chris said, the assets that you've generated. Okay. So this is why, when you build a business that's got assets, yes, you get what you've invested in them back, but you don't get a multiple on those assets. Whereas profit, you get a multiple. So if I make 100,000 and I've got 100,000 cash, I get 100 for the cash, but I get 5 times the 100 for my profits. So this is why we should always be thinking about reinvesting into our business, into its ability to generate profit, rather than just sitting on cash. Okay, because cash is only worth 1 times, whereas profit can be worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. Okay, so we've got to be thinking about growing our profit and growing our multiple. So, and this is the interesting one. What is this multiple? You know, it's a bit of a finger in the air. And don't forget, businesses get sold, yeah, for what one person is willing to sell for and what one person is willing to buy for. That's the only thing that really matters. The calculation is just a justification of that. Okay, so if you've got a desperate seller and no buyers, you're going to have a low multiple irrespective of how well the business is. If you've got multiple buyers, yeah, and a reluctant seller, then potentially you'll get a higher valuation. But you know, the essence of the multiple is still sound. So businesses get a higher multiple. So a poor business would get roughly around about a 1 to 2 times multiple of their profit figures, their EBITDA figure. Average business, so they've done studies, the average business is sold for about 2.7 times multiple. Okay, and a good business would be looking at 4 to 5 times multiple, and to me a great business is up in the sort of 6, 7 times multiple. This is really where small businesses get sold, owner managed, probably 10, 20 million pound businesses are somewhere on that scale. Bad ones 1 times, really good ones 6, 7 times. So I would generally say an average is around about average for a good business is around about 4 times. Okay, now there is an interesting factor with this is it can be higher. So if any of you sort of follow the stock exchange and on the stock exchange, this multiple is actually called the price earnings ratio. So it's the value between the earnings that the business makes, the EBITDA, the profit figure, and the price in which it's traded on the stock exchange. And this is an example of, this goes back to 2010, is the average S&P 500 P ratio for the last 10 years. And you can see here, the businesses are trading somewhere between 10 times and 20 times. And the average is around about 15 times. So while most small businesses are sold at 2.7 times, on the stock exchange they're trading for 15 times. Now the reason for that is generally businesses that are on the stock exchange are turning over multi-millions, so they're at that size. They're generally running without the business owner, so they have all the systems and processes in place, and there is an exchange where they are traded. And this is why the ultimate goal of a business is eventually to be listed, because you go from a 1, 2, 3 times multiple to a 15 times multiple. And that's where the real serious money is made. And that's why you've got people like venture capitalists that are out there looking for the small businesses that they buy at 5 times. Yeah, they put together, they wave their magic wands on them, and then they float them on the stock exchange for 15 times. That's where they make serious multi-millions for a year's work, something like that. Okay, but that's what I would say is at the next phase, we're here looking at the sort of first phase of it and getting to that £1 million sort of mark. So if we know that these multiples are based on our profit figures, then the other thing to think about is when should you sell? If this is the average growth curve of a business, so you can see, life cycle, it goes up here. You can see here that cash and profit sometimes take a dip in those early periods where it's hard work to get it going, and it starts to sort of pick up. Yeah, and then eventually achieves some form of maturity and an eventual decline. And if you're lucky, we'll go on to another factor. So where on this line would you say would be the best time for us as business owners to sell our businesses?
Towards the end of growth.
So you're thinking, so you're thinking what, around about here?
Possibly a bit before then, because you want whoever's going to buy it to see the opportunity there, and they're going to be just as because they're going to be just as aware of the curve, and they're not going to want to put money into something that they don't have potential to recover their money.
Perfect. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, the best place to sell is here, right at the peak." The problem with the peak is what's after the peak?
The trough.
Trough. So the best time to sell is actually somewhere in here. And we don't know when that is, because there's a timing factor. You know, is if we were building this up and saying, right, I want to sell in July 2020, and we'd set our heart on selling in July 2020, how happy are we going to be right now?
Depends whether somebody's bought the business or not.
Depends if we were selling PPE or not. So we can't really set. So we're just saying, look, at some point we need to be of a certain size, yeah, with everything in place that we are now attractive. Okay, that we start to attract suitors, and there's probably, you know, in effect a 2 to 3 year window here, or probably 1 to 3 year window here, where we want to be actively looking. We're not working to sort of October, you know, 2021 to sell. We're saying that somewhere between, you know, in 2021 to 2023, that's the time I'm gonna hopefully find a buyer in that time. Okay, because these things do take time, and we want to sell to the right people to maximize, you know, our multiple. That's really what we're after here. So down here, you know, we've got low profit and low multiple. So we're not really worth anything. Up here, we might have a high profit, but because we're potentially declining, we're a bit stagnant, there's no real growth prospects for us, our multiple is going to go down. In here, we get that high multiple and high value. That's really where we're looking for, this window of saying, right, we need to be in this window here to actually sell. Okay. Now, every industry is different. Your turnover might be different, but you know, you're generally looking at $1 million plus somewhere, you know, to be in that sort of that sector. So we've got to start thinking of planning for this end game. You know, when do we want this to happen? What point in our journey are we looking to, you know, potentially exit the business to be able to sell it? If we've got a business that we just know we're never going to sell, you know, and if our business is just us and we can't do anything to do anything but just us, then we have to accept it. We're not going to sell it, and we have to have a cash flow strategy. We have to just make enough money in the next 10 years, put that excess money into our pensions, into our investments, and work on a capital improvement strategy around there. Maybe buy properties, flip properties, do something outside our business. There's no point in saying I'm going to build a business that's worth, you know, £1 million if that business can never achieve it. Okay, so you've got to be honest with yourself. Is this business, has it got the potential to get to where I want it to be? And sometimes you need that external advice. Sit down. That's what I do with a lot of people. I know, Damien, we did that, and when sort of sat down and said, look, can we get this business to be this size? And you know, if we can, great, we put a plan together. If we can't, we accept it and we go and do something else. So in the back of our mind, we're thinking, right, well, who's going to buy us? You know, how are we going to exit? So I was with a client today. We just sat down and worked out his MBO strategy. So he wants to sell to his management team. Okay, he's not interested in making shitloads of money. He's got enough money he's made. He wants a little bit of money, but he wants the business to continue with the existing management structure. Okay, sometimes it's fathers and sons, mothers and daughters. I know, Chris, you want to hand yours over to your daughters. So, you know, so that's their management team. Our customer's going to be the most likely to buy us. The supplier is going to be the most likely to buy us. Are we working to make ourselves really wanted by a competitor? So I'm working with a client at the moment, and probably we're going to go down the competitor route. We're going to make ourselves annoy some big businesses that trade on the stock exchange. We're going to make ourselves a real pain in their arse, so that the best thing they can do is buy us out. Or we could be looking at other investors will be attractive, that they can take us and amalgamate us and do something, you know, and move us forward. Or whatever, you know, but if we don't go into this with that mindset of who could buy us, now ultimately what we really would like is, well, that's not that one, but open to all of these people. Is if I've got all of these people that could be interested in me, I'm going to open my market and have a chance of selling to a higher value. As I said, the more people interested, the more we're likely to actually achieve that. Again, the biggest barrier to us selling is not the customer, it's not the economic conditions, because we're setting quite a big window here. Yes, challenge to sell is you. Okay. And one of the really bizarre things, and I had a client, he took me on because he wanted the business to work without him, and he wanted to get out of the business. So we built it, we got the systems, we got an MD in place, and he basically retired from the business. He went off, didn't come into the business for a month. He was away for a month, and he had no life outside the business. He had no hobbies, no friends outside of work. And after a month, he was bored to tears, and he came back into the business and undermined the MD and basically messed up the whole business, and the MD left. He was left with a business that was no longer working, and eventually it went pop. So that was a complete disaster. Relationship is with a company, not with outside people. You know, sometimes we hang on to our business because it gives us a status. You know, I'm a business owner, I'm a director. You know, once it's gone, I lose my status. Yeah, I am the business. Yeah, so no one's going to buy it because it's me. You know, I can't sell myself because I want to go off and do something else. And sometimes there's unrealistic price expectation. Oh, my business is worth £1 million. Well, actually, it's not. If you do the calculations, you know, it's not. I'm helping a few clients at the moment buy businesses. So we're buying off people who want to get out. And the majority, their expectations of what their business is worth, yeah, is ridiculous. You know, I want £1 million. Well, it's not worth £1 million. Yeah, but I want £1 million. Well, you're never going to sell it. So you've got to understand how businesses are valued and why somebody would pay £1 million for your business, yeah, because otherwise you're going to be very disappointed. And, you know, often people are too busy. They're too busy working in their business ever to even think about selling it. There's not enough time to actually go through the process. And it does take time. You know, I've had one client we've had a suitor, he's come in, you know, the sale hasn't gone through, but you know, it's pretty much occupied most of his time for the last 3 months. A pain in the ass when it's not gone through, but you know, he's learned a lot from it in that process anyway. So you've got to have the time to actually go through it. And you know, it's not planned for. You know, we never get to a point where we're actually thinking of, right, you know, we've got it ready and we want to actually sell. So this retirement date, we go back and think it's a financial position, not an age. You know, it's where you can choose to retire, not have to retire. Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, why would you want to wait? I still see people say, oh, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. Well, why? You know, why 65? You know, why not retire when you're 55, 45, 30? You know, the guy I'm working with at the moment, he wants to be done by the time he's 40. That's it. I want to be out. So think about, you know, how long does it take? How long are we going to take building this business, working on it to that point where we can actually then sell it? That's the key to this. And you can be amazed, you know, people underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years, but overestimate what they can achieve in a year. So by planning it out, setting our goals, you know, it's a bit like how do you eat an elephant, you know, one step at a time. We've got to break it down into its bite-sized chunks. So what I want you to do now is take that number that we came up with, that passive income figure. Okay, so whatever your figure was. Now I'm going to start with what I've got. And I said 50, didn't I? So I'm going to start with 50,000. And in order to get 50,000, I need £1 million invested. So you work out your numbers, whatever they might be. So I need to build my business and sell it for £1 million. Now, I therefore need to know what my multiple is going to be. Now, I think in my business, I could probably go, and I'll be a little bit cautious here and say a 4 times multiple. But if you think your business could be a 7 times multiple, use 7. If you think it should be 3, then use 3. Don't worry too much at this stage. I'll tell you how we can influence the multiple a bit later. So I need 250,000 of profits. Okay, so 250 times 4 gives me my £1 million. In order to get 250 profits, how much turnover do I need? Now, I work on a 20% net profit. So 5 times 250 is 1.25 million turnover. In order to achieve 1.25 million turnover, how many people do I need? Well, I know that one person equals 100,000 turnover. Therefore, I need 12.5 people. So now I've got this visualization of, look, can I see my business turning over 1.25 million, making £250,000 profit, employing 12.5 people? I haven't quite worked out how to visualize work employing half a person. I'm not sure whether I want the top half or the bottom half, but so think about that for your business. What would those numbers need to be? Now, if you're struggling with that, then that's something we need to work on. We need to look at how we can achieve those numbers, how we can put a business strategy together to get you from where you are to where you need to be. But really, it is as simple as that. Start with the end in mind so that we can actually drive this forwards. So let's start with the profit then. So how are we going to take our business from where it is to where it needs to be? So how are we going to grow our profits, up to, and in my case, up to 250,000 of profits? Well, there's 5 ways that we can influence and grow the profits in our business. There's actually 6 ways. Okay, the 6th way is acquisition. So we can go and buy a chunk of business and a chunk of profit. Now, Chris, you just said that you did that recently. So Chris is a bookkeeper, and so she's found somebody who's retiring from their practice and has actually taken over the client base, the income, and the profit. Okay, now that's a great way to get a step change in your profits and your turnover. Okay, so that's a really good way to do it. So that's one way. That's the 6th way. If we're going to grow organically and we're not really ready to buy business at the moment, then what we've got to focus on is, if we want profits, we've got to have revenues, we've got to have customers, but we can't influence those 3 things directly. Those are results of other activities that are going on in our business. The first one is leads. We've got to generate more leads to come into the business, inquiries. This is marketing. So we've got to be able to market our business so that more people come and have inquiries about what we sell, our services or our products. We've got to convert those people. So this is sales. So one's marketing. So this is marketing up here. Okay, so this is marketing, and this is sales. So these 2 together drive our customers. So we buy our customers, we build our customers. And once we've got our customers, we need to sell to them again and again and again. There's no point in having one customer and only sell them to once, because that's not repeatable business. And we've got to sell as much as we possibly can to them. So if you think about one of the reason Amazon, is the most valued business on the stock exchange. I don't know even what time multiples it trades at. I think it's thousands. Okay, it's a £1 trillion business. It's huge. The reason of that is because it has loads of leads coming in. Its conversion rate is really, really good. People come back again and again and again and again and again, and every time they come back, they spend more money. So they have almost the perfect business model. They buy a client for once and they keep them forever. Okay. So this is basically account management. So this is how do we keep our clients. Yeah. And then the final thing is the margins, the profitability that we make. So are we making profit from our clients? So those 5 things, those 5 keys actually work together in a compound way to actually get us what we want to get. So if we look at it and put some numbers to this, so what we've done in ActionCOACH is over the years, we've put together over 300 strategies around these 5 ways. So there's 73 in conversion rate, 73 in leads, 83 conversion rate, 68 transactions, 53, 68. So there's loads of strategies. When people say, "Oh, I don't know how to grow my business," well, there's 344 ways to grow your business. The question is, which ones are we going to use? You can't do all of them. Yeah, you've got to choose the strategies that are going to work for you. So if we put some numbers into this and say, right, let's start with a small little business. We get 4,000 inquiries coming in each year, and we convert 25% of those. So that gives us 1,000 customers. Each customer buys on average twice a year, spends £100. Yeah, there's 200,000 turnover. We make a 25% net profit. We make £50,000 profit. So that's sort of what I was saying, where perhaps my business is right now, or this sort of business that I've got is right now. Makes me a living. £50,000 makes me a reasonable living. So by looking at this and breaking this down into its component parts and looking for small incremental improvements on each of these 5 areas, let's see what impact that does. So if we find out these 344 strategies, 2 or 3 strategies to generate more leads. So, Damien, we've been working on that. Which one did we sort of couple that we picked up on to generate you more inquiries?
Sorry?
Which lead strategies did we find when we worked on your plan to create more strategies for leads?
There was obviously the seminar, which I'm still working through.
Yeah.
Obviously, I found that other one to do with the funding for public funded bodies.
Public sector tendering, yeah.
Yeah, and also we're working on existing clients or clients we've lost contact with, and then you've made a couple of introductions for me. Thank you much.
Yep. So referrals, seminars. So we've got 2 or 3 strategies that we're starting to improve our leads. Yep. So from those, do you think we could get a 10% improvement on your leads coming in?
As I said to you before, most of my business comes from about eight.
Yeah.
Clients. So if I can get 1 new regular client, yeah, that's potentially 10%.
Yep. Cool. So we can increase by 10%. So that takes us to 4,400.
Yeah.
Then we get better at converting. So we're going to work on conversion rate strategies, to really build trust earlier. So that we were talking about the website and the LinkedIn profiles to do that.
Yeah. The
scripts that we use. So we're looking to improve our conversion rates, our sales techniques, as it were.
Yeah.
So by doing that, let's get our conversion rate up to 27.5%. So Chris is our resident maths genius. So if I'm growing everything by 10%, what do my customers increase to?
So increasing your customers by 10% on 1,000?
Yeah.
1,100?
1,100, excellent. Okay. So
yeah, it's compound 1.1.
We got a compound. We got a 10% on 10%. Okay. So then we're gonna go back to our existing client base, and we're gonna get our current clients to come back more often. So we're going to increase that by 10%. We're going to work on strategies to increase our average transaction value, add value, different services, different products that we can sell. That takes us to 110. So that would take us to 292,000, 46% increase in our revenues. Do the same on our margins. So look at our costings, our efficiencies, how we produce our product and service, increase that, brings us to 80,000, 61% improvement in our bottom line. So just by 10% in 5 areas has a compound effect that is far more than what we seem to put in. We do that in year 2, yep, the same, year 3, year 4. By the time we get to year 5, yeah, potentially we've grown to 1.3 million and a £500,000 profit. Now, what was my target when I set my goals? Remember? 1.25
250.
and 250. So, you know, I've doubled that. So even if I was half as good as what I've said is potential there, yeah, then I'm still going to achieve my goals. And this is why I always say, shoot for the stars. And if you hit the moon, you're doing pretty good. People fail because they set too small a goal rather than too big a goal.
However, just to say, eagles may soar, but weasels don't get sucked into jet engines.
If you want to be a weasel, Andy, then you go ahead, be a weasel. Look, it's failure is, you know, to me, failure is not giving it a go. Okay, failure is not giving it a go. It's go. If you go for it and you fail, well, you're not going to be any worse off than you are if you don't have a go at it. Because you'll learn so much, and don't forget, the game of business is playing the game. It's enjoying this. You know, as the great Jim Rohn once said, you know, don't earn £1 million or don't, you know, get £1 million for the £1 million. Do it because of the person you become to earn £1 million. You know, you'll learn so much in growing a business that goes from 200,000 to 1.3 million. That's where the fun is. The fun isn't in doing the work. It's not doing 1.3 million pounds of work. That's the hard bit. Running a company that does 1.3 million, that's the fun bit. So we've got to learn the skills to actually get us from where we are to where we want to be. So if that's the goal, you know, so we've sort of set ourselves as the owners of our business and said, right, we want to grow from where we are to where we did you all get, have you all got a figure? I'm not going to ask what the figure is, but you've got the income you want to earn, how much you need to potentially sell the business for, what sort of size turnover and number of people you've got. Have you all got those? Mm-hmm. So who is responsible for the growth of your business? Now, you sit up here, don't you, as shareholders? You own your own business. So is it the shareholders' responsibility for the growth of the business?
No.
No. No, the shareholder basically invests in the business, yeah, and from that wants to get a dividend and value. So if you look at your company accounts, as shareholder, you've invested probably £100 in your business. Okay, would you say that's normal, Chris? Shareholders' capital in a business is generally about 100 quid.
Yeah, £101 shares generally.
£101 shares. How many businesses that you do the books for have actually put £100 of cash into their business?
Very few.
Very few. So you've got a business, as a shareholder, you've put nothing into your business, and now you want to sell it for £1 million. That's an interesting concept. I'm not going to dwell on that one, but we want dividends and value. So on a regular annual basis, I want a dividend out of my business, yeah, for investing my money in it, and I want it to increase the value. In order to achieve dividends and value, I employ a managing director. Okay, so the MD is now going to be responsible for achieving profit and the multiple. Okay, that's what you employ an MD for. Mr. MD, Mrs. MD, I need you to generate me more profit and get me a better multiple. So Mr. or Mrs. MD says, fantastic, I'm up for that job. And for that job, you're going to pay me a salary of how much?
MD, 100 grand plus a bonus.
100 grand plus a bonus. Fantastic. So here's my little business turning over £200,000, now paying out £100,000 to an MD to run my business for me. So do we do that?
No.
No, we don't. No, we employ the first person that comes to hand, which is
Me.
you. Okay, so right, okay, well, I'll do that job as well then. In order to achieve that, we've already looked at the 5 ways. Yeah, I've now not got to employ a marketing director. And the marketing director's job is to generate me leads. Okay, now we can't afford a £50,000 marketing salary, so who does that job?
You.
Me.
You do, yeah, me. Now I need to convert those leads into the maximum number of sales I can get, which is my conversion. So who do I employ to do the sales?
That would be me.
That'll be you. So these two guys together, guys and gals together, leads and conversions, these guys are responsible for your sales, your top line. So the managing director is meeting with the sales and marketing team on a monthly basis saying, right, are you driving the sales to the 1.2 million that I set as you as a target to achieve in 5 years? And if you're not, then I need to sack you and find somebody who can do it. So have you ever tried to sack yourself?
Yeah, it didn't go well.
No, I normally get HR involved for that one.
Yeah, she moans at me.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
So then we get operations. So the operations director, head of actually doing things on time, on budget. So they're responsible for direct costs. Okay, and between three of those, who's the operations director, by the way?
Me.
You are? Good, excellent. So there's another job for you to do. And you three are now responsible for the gross profit of the business. So if we're not achieving the margins we set, then the managing director is going to be breathing down your neck and making sure that you actually pick up your game. Then we have our finance director, who's responsible for the financial security of the business, looks after the overheads and the balance sheet. So who does that one?
Me.
And Andy, for you, this is probably one of the first ones that you would outsource to somebody like Chris.
Yeah,
Chris, I can't do all these bloody jobs. You do the finance one. It's the one I least like. Yeah, so you take care of that one. So between all of those four is responsible for the net profit. So the MD, is overseeing and making sure each one of these people, which is you, is actually driving that net profit. And the final director that we often miss out is the HR director, who is basically responsible for the people and happiness in your organization. And guess who gets to do that one?
me too.
You do as well. So when you look at that, and that one gives you the longevity of the business. So when you look at that and you start thinking in the average typical sub-£1 million business, because if you've got 10 employees, most of those employees are going to be doing the work, aren't they? They're either going to be your sales team or your operations team. They're going to be frontline people. So as the business owner, you're set up here thinking, I should just be getting a dividend and increasing value. You're also the MD, you're also marketing director, you're also sales director, you're also operations director. You're probably doing a bit of overseeing of the finance, and you're probably the HR director as well. And you wonder why you're working 60, 70 hours a week and you're knackered and you don't have holidays. And the reason you can't grow your business is because you're so busy down here. There's not enough time to do the stuff that the MD should be doing, which is driving the business forward. And that is, to me, the number one reason why businesses don't grow. Because these people are responsible, this person here is responsible for the growth, these people are responsible for the growth. As a small business, we're stuck down here doing the work, not actually working on the business. We're working in it, not on it. So we've got to start thinking, as we grow, then we don't go from one person to a team of, 20 people overnight. This takes time, it takes planning, it takes skill to actually, how do I recruit a marketing person, salesperson? How do I manage them? How do I make sure they do the right things? These are all the skills that we have to learn. And this is what I really think about, Damien's point about the technician who starts a business is generally very good here. Might be okay here, probably not very good here, rubbish up here, and maybe a little bit okay over in finance and HR. So we've got to learn the skills to be able to understand how these roles work, to be able to find better people than we are to actually do the work. And eventually over time, we move ourselves from down here. So from down here Okay, so this is where we want to end up. So this is our goal in 5 to 10 years. We're sitting up here, and even we've got somebody doing that, somebody doing that, somebody doing that, that, and that. At that point, then we are the most attractive we can be, and we will get the highest multiple that will be on offer, and our profits should be up there as well. So how do we increase this multiple then? So that was all about driving profit. Who's responsible for it? How do we drive it? The 5 ways, strategies in each of those areas. Once we've got the profit, we've also got to think about this multiple, because there's no point in building a profit of 250,000 if our multiple's 1. Yeah, we could have 200,000 and a multiple of 5. Yeah, and now we're worth £1 million, whereas 250 and 1 is only worth 250. So we've got to work on these 2 things together. So there are 4 ways to increase this multiple. Okay, 4 key ways that I've looked at over the years, and I think are the keys to it. So the first way is you've got to have a really clearly defined niche, yeah, a unique selling proposition, a position in the marketplace where you're attractive to somebody else because they want what you've got. You stand for something. Okay, I'll come back in a little bit more detail about this in a second. You've got to have the people in place, people that if I'm going to buy you, that actually I want your team. Yeah, and you've got to have the time to actually not be working in the business. So in effect, you know, if you can pop in every now and then to your business, yeah, then I'm going to pay more for that than if I have to take you on, because no one who buys a business wants you to stay on. A lot of businesses you have to stay on because a lot of the knowledge is in your head. But if you stay on in your business, yeah, you're not going to get your money up front when you sell your business. It's going to take you 2 or 3 years to get your money out. You're going to have to work for somebody else and then pay them to actually pay you out of your business, which is where most businesses sales happen. But the more or the less reliant on you it is, the easier it is for you to get out. So one of my clients, she sold for 15 million, and you know that she had a business that basically ran without her. She was on holiday for 6 months of the year at the time she sold it. So, yeah, bang, there you go. The business doesn't need me. Yeah, you take it on, pay me my 15 million, right, job done. Now I can sort of go and do other things. You've got to have the systems and technology in place. You know, we are a tech world. Yeah, if you're still doing stuff on spreadsheets, you know, on fag packets, yeah, no one's going to buy your business. Because no matter how good your spreadsheets are, somebody else taking them on won't understand how to work them. And Chris knows this only too well, you know, and I do. You know, I used to build fantastic spreadsheet machines, and you know, but if they went wrong, the only person that could fix them was me. Yeah, so we have to rely on technology now. In the old days, we didn't. You know, Excel was the technology. Today's world, it's not. It's moved on, and we've got to have real clarity and visibility within our finance and our KPIs. Okay, yeah. The first thing people are going to do when they come and buy you is they want to do due diligence, and they're going to look into your numbers, because everything else is emotional. Your numbers are the logic. The numbers are the scorecard of the business, which I'll show you in a minute. So, first one, how unique are you? Yeah. The more unique you are, the more value you have. So if you think about businesses with clear USPs, you know, really ones that stand out, the big, you know, I'm using brands because they're the easiest to find, but, you know, Apple, you know, has a really clear USP. John Lewis, you know, never knowing undersold, the partnership, the way they work. Richer Sounds, if you ever bought your audio stuff, from the way that they set up their organization. You know, people that buy from Richer Sounds would never dream of buying from Curry's, PC World, whatever it's called now. Okay, there's a real membership, a real feeling of brand loyalty to these people. They stand for something. Okay, so we've got to, you know, now we might not be, you know, high street brands or national, international brands, but we've got to have an element of that in our marketplace that makes us stand out. Because if you're just one of 1,000, then why would I buy you? You know, I'll buy one of the other 999. Okay, so we've got to be looking, how do we actually create that USP? And that does take time to build, you know, but if we're not shouting about it, then we're not making people value what we've actually got. And it changes, you know, the whole thing is you can have a really good USP, a really good brand 1 minute, and if you don't keep developing it, keep pushing it forwards, it will end up broken. You know, look at the businesses that have gone bust recently. You know, their markets moved, but they didn't move. They became, you know, too big, too fat, too unable to actually, you know, adapt with the times. So we've always got to be looking at what our USP is and moving it forwards. And, you know, this is a little thing that we go through with clients, is sort of 20 USPs that we can choose. And we look at the industry that you're in, and we find 1 or 2 of those that really sort of stand out for you. And then we build our own brand around that, you know, and we don't have to spend huge amounts of money on brand. You know, if you think about the Nike logo and Coca-Cola logos, you know, which is the essence of the brand, I think, you know, the Nike one, I think was $30 or something. The guy paid somebody, is one of his college mates to create it. Coca-Cola one was a doodle on a napkin. You know, so a lot of people will charge you a lot of money to create this amazing brand, but you know, it's not that difficult, really. Don't have to spend huge amounts of money on it. So we've got to position ourselves in the market. We've got to have this sort of essence of who we are so that we become attractive to other people. The second thing is the people and time. Now, this is a really interesting one. You saw that organization chart, which I love doing with clients, and it really does identify where the gaps are in our organization. But another way to look at it is what we call the entrepreneur's ladder. And this is all about how we think and how far forward we think and what we get out of individuals. So if you take a student, how far forward does a student think? Andy, can you remember back when you were a student?
Probably up until the next break.
The next break, but you know, maximum 1 day. How do I get through today?
Give them some credit. They're interested in beer at the end of the day.
That's what I mean. Yeah. how do I get to the beer at the end of the day? And you know, if I think 1 day ahead, yeah, how much am I worth? Yeah, how much contribution am I making to society at that stage?
Not a lot.
Okay, so students, they basically pay to go to university. Yeah, they're not being paid to go to university. So then, but they do good there. They go out, they get a job, and they become an employee. So how far forward does a typical employee think? The student thinks 1 day. How far forward does an employee think?
Friday
afternoon.
A week. Okay, let's credit them with a little bit more, get up and go than a student. So they're thinking a week. How do I get to Friday? How do I get to the weekend? Okay. Now, generally we pay, you know, on average, let's say, you know, a wage, you know, an hourly rate of say £10 an hour. Yeah. So, but I'm a good employee. I'm good at the job. I get promotion and I get promoted to becoming a manager. So how far forward should a manager now be thinking?
Quarterly?
Monthly.
A month ahead. I should be able to plan a month. Okay, I should be able to get my guys involved, you know, sorted out, production, etc., to a month ahead. And how much would a manager be paid?
£30.
50K.
About £20 an hour. Okay, so now I'm a good manager. You know, I've really excelled in this job, and now I've been promoted to a director. So how far forward should I be thinking now as a director? So this would be your sales director, your operations director, that sort of level.
Quarterly.
3 months to a year. Okay, so up to a year out, I should be working to an annual budget, an annual plan. I should be involved in those sorts of decisions for a year. And as a director, how much am I earning as a director?
70, 80 grand.
Yeah, 30, 50 pounds an hour, something like that. Okay. Now I'm the MD, so now I'm in charge of all of these directors who are in charge of these managers who are in charge of these employees. Okay, so how far forward should I be thinking as a MD?
5-year plan.
Into 5 years, I should have a 5. I'm in charge of this company. I should be setting the 5-year plan to go to my shareholders and say, look, you take me on, you give me a 5-year contract, and I will do this for your business. I will take you from here to here. And I, as a shareholder, I go, that's very good. You achieve that, you keep your job, you get a bonus. Don't achieve that, then we'll be having words. And as a director, as an MD, I'll be up around about that sort of the £100,000 mark, £50 an hour. Now, as a business owner, then, so this is really where this time for money starts to sort of change. As the shareholder of a business, how far forward should I be thinking as an owner of my business?
5 years.
5 to 10 years. Because I'm in investing in this asset for a period of time. At some point, I want to realize my asset. Why would I, if I'm buying a house, I want to invest in that house, and over a period of time, at some point, I want to realize my investment in that house. Okay, but I'll be thinking a lot longer, 5 to 10 years potentially, as a business owner. At this level, my sort of hours and my pay suddenly, they don't link anymore. As a business owner, do I have to go into work every day? No. I should be able to do that from my armchair, a couple of phone calls. So I'm no longer restricted by the hours I work to the amount of money I actually earn. But let's say it's £100 an hour for every hour I work. As an investor, again, investors plan for the long term, invest for the long term. So if you start a pension, you're looking at a 20, 30-year investment plan. If I buy, multiple houses, I'm investing for the long term. So it's probably, a lifetime. I'm investing for my lifetime. And as an investor, I should be working even less. If I'm an investor, I'm doing it because I probably enjoy doing it, not because I have to do it. Or if I am, I'm earning serious money. If I'm doing full-time investing, I'm earning serious money. So it's somebody like Warren Buffett, who's earning multi-millions, if not billions per year. Work that out as an hourly rate, you're probably looking at about £1,000 an hour. And if you're a true entrepreneur, you're thinking beyond your own lifestyle. You're thinking about, legacy. You're thinking about what are you going to leave behind. So, Branson, he's not planning for what he's going to do in his lifetime. He's planning on what is the legacy is going to be that he's going to leave behind. And at that level, the sky's the limit. Okay, so we've got to be thinking here that when we run our own small business, our sub-£1 million business, we are here. We are spending time here, thinking of our 20-year plan, and our legacy. We are here as investors in our own business. We're shareholders in our own business. We are the business owner. We are the MD. We are the director. We are the manager. We are the employee. And to an extent, we are always the student. We're always learning, or we should always be learning. Now, if you spend most of your day-to-day time down here, and so if you said, I'm working 50 hours a week, and I do 48 hours of that down in sort of managing an employee, then guess what? That's what you're going to earn. You're not going to earn this sort of level of income if you spend all of your time down here. Now, if you spend your time up here running a business, yeah, and have people that do this work for you, then you can earn this sort of money for this sort of time. The only way we can do that is to build a team of people who are doing this bit so that we can move up here. When we start a business, yeah, we're down here. After a year, we should have a couple of employees, so we become a manager. After that, we should have a few managers, so we become a director. After that, we should have some directors who will become the MD. After that, we put in an MD, so we become the business owner. So we've got to be thinking, how do we move ourselves up this ladder so that where we can actually be earning the amount of money that we should be earning. Now, if you don't want to, if you want to stay down, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to do this. That's why we need to build £1 million plus business, because it's only by doing that allows us to move up this ladder. If we stay down here, then we're destined, that's all we're ever going to earn, £10 to £20 an hour. Which, to be honest, you may as well go and get a job. It's far safer, far more secure. At least you get 5 weeks holiday a year. So in order to, sorry, and a pension and healthcare. So the key to this is really thinking about where you spend your time, okay? Because time is actually your most precious asset. You know, we have exactly the same number of hours as Alan Sugar does, as Richard Branson does. You know, it's just these guys do more valuable things with their time than most people. Now, this little concept came from this really good book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is actually our book club. So every month we do a book club for clients. It's also available, as a sort of a pay-as-you-go service as well, £50 a month. You get a book, and then on the last Friday of the month over breakfast, we get together and have a discussion about what we've learned from the book. So that's we're doing that tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock with that book. But this was his habit number 2, which is really about time management. So where do we spend our time? Now, he said the majority of unsuccessful people are running around doing not urgent and not important stuff. So what's the definition of urgency?
A showstopper.
Showstopper? Yeah, something that has a consequence of not doing it now. Okay, so if I don't do it now, there's a consequence. What's the definition of important? How do I know if something's important or not?
If you don't do it, it's going to cause you problems.
Yeah, I'd say that's more the urgency. If I don't do it now, it's going to cause me problems. There's going to be consequences of it. How do I know if something's important in my life? It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for me, importance is about your goals. If it's helping you achieve your goal, then it's important. If your family, if your kids are important to you, that's what you've set out. That's your goal, is to provide for your kids, to make your kids happy. So importance, you can only identify, and you can only really do time management if you really understand what's important. And that's why goal setting is so important, because only by setting a goal in your business do you actually understand then what is important, what's not important. So is being the MD in your business important?
Yeah.
Actually wearing the MD's hat and making strategic decisions at an MD level, is that important for you to achieve your goals?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it urgent? Does it have to be done right now?
Possibly not.
No. There's no, if you don't do it now, there's no consequences of not doing it right now. That the house doesn't burn down, things don't go wrong right now.
Right.
Okay, so this is why we sort of say if we're not urgent, not important, we get distracted. We're doing stuff. We're just filling our time. if I'm doing urgent and not important, so it's urgent as a consequence, but it's not important to me, it's not helping me achieve my goals, we delude ourselves because we're doing other people's stuff. We're helping other people achieve their goals rather than achieving our goals. This is the one we get stuck in the small businesses. We end up doing urgent and important. So it has to be done because there's a consequence if we don't do it, and it is important. But this is firefighting. This is demand. Now, one of the main reasons it's suddenly become it's important and urgent is generally because we didn't do it when it was not urgent. So we're constantly fixing things that we should have actually put in place and got right a long time ago, but just never had the time. So we've got to make sure we make time, not find time, make time to do the not urgent but important stuff. And for me, this is that director level stuff. This is time to think. This is the £100,000 an hour work that we do, not the £10 an hour work that we get stuck in doing. And this is where I work with my clients, at that level is our regular coaching sessions are talking at the director MD level, the £100,000 an hour stuff, which is important but not urgent. You don't have to do it. But if you don't do it, then it's seriously going to slow down your potential for growth. And we're too good in small businesses of actually running around fighting fires, doing the £10, £20 an hour work. What we're not good is actually sitting down with headspace to actually do the bigger ticket stuff. And I know it's true because I suffer from the same thing. I suffer from the fact that I am the employee, I'm the manager, I'm the director, I'm the MD. And it's easy for me to make the same mistake. So I need to have that time where I go and have a think space that I work with my coach to actually strategize on my business and do the high level stuff as well. So it's really, really key that we get management of the time. The second area then is we've got to build a team. Now we've already looked at this, we've got to, eventually we've got to sort of build this structure in place. So the first thing is to think, right, what is my plan? Which of these roles do I sort out first? Now, generally, one of the first ones is the finance. Well, I can't afford a finance director, so I'll outsource that to somebody like Chris. It's a part-time role. They can take responsibility and they can report back to me with my management accounts, KPIs, and keep me abreast of what I'm doing. Next one might be HR. So we work with a lady called Steph at Pure HR, and she helps out a lot of my clients on all the HR issues. As the MD, you shouldn't be involved in, all the rubbish that goes on with your employees. Let an HR person deal with those. So these two are easy. Generally, in the early days, these two are outsourced. So that leaves this lot. Now, the next one that's probably outsourced is that one, is the lead generation. In some shape or form, you get somebody to do some element of your marketing for you, which leaves you these two. So the first thing you've got to decide as you grow your business is which one of these you let go of first. You let go of the operations and you carry on doing the sales, or you do let go of the sales and you carry on doing the operations. And then what is the structure underneath of this that we need to build? What does that look like? What are we actually growing into? Because again, if you can't visualize it, you can't materialize it. So we've really got to think about the ratio of high-level people to low-level people. What's the efficiency within here? What's the profitability in here? So that structure gives us that ability not only to make more money because we should be more efficient, but it's the multiple factor. If we get this right, we become a far more valuable business than if we get it wrong. And there's 6 keys to actually building our team. The first thing is we've got to be able to recruit people. Our recruitment, we have to have a process for it. We have to actually get it systemized. We have to get good at it. Otherwise, recruiting people is just, you may as well flip a coin. 50-50 chance of them being successful. So I've just got one client at the moment. We're advertising we've got 104 applicants for this role. And
Wow.
he phoned me up and said, am I going to actually, interview all these people? I said, you're not. So we have a process to deselect these people. So we put 4 stages in the process that deselects them. So they go from 100 to 50 to 25 to 10 to 5 to 1. And that whole process takes about 4 hours of our time. Okay, these are things that we learn. You can learn by trial and error. I've done it. I've interviewed people. I've one company we took on 4 general managers or managing directors, general managers. Yeah, and I reckon it cost us $2.5 million because we got it wrong. Okay, we use psychometric profiling now to actually do a psychometric on them. To actually make sure there's a fit with the values, the culture of the business. These are all important things to understand to get right. And these are things you have to learn. I've learned the hard way, but I've also learned now through other people that have done it and learned the best way of doing it. Once we recruit them, we then got to have an induction program. Now, for most people, the induction is, there's your desk, get on with it. And then we wonder why they fail. We wonder why they leave in a week's time. We now work to a 13-week induction process. So every single week, there are a set of goals that have to be achieved for that person to be inducted perfectly into the organization. That means make sure that the good people we pretty much guaranteed of keeping, and the bad ones are guaranteed of actually leaving. Because if you've recruited people before, you get to 13 weeks, I don't know, should I keep them or should I go? Or I'll give them another 3 months. And then by the time a year's gone by, you've invested so much time and effort into them, you just don't get rid of them. Once they're inducted, we need to motivate them. We can't just expect people just to sit there and just do what they do. There are ways to actually motivate them. So there's 3 key things in motivation that we teach, about actually balancing that up. We bring in appraisals to actually monitor their progress. We need to manage them. And manage and lead are completely different things. Management's the hard bit, leadership's the easy bit. We need to learn to delegate. How do we let go of stuff? That's one of the hardest things with a technician, is actually accepting that other people can do the job better than you can do. And if they can't do it better, then it's because you haven't trained them well enough or your system isn't good enough. And the one that we're pretty rubbish on, I find in most cases, is actually discipline, is when they get it wrong, how to deal with that, how to bring them in line. Because if you don't discipline people, then it's like children. If you don't discipline children, then they just start making rules. If you don't discipline animals, they just make rules. They make their own rules up. But it's doing it in a positive way, not, whacking them around the head. Okay, it's not scare tactics, it's doing it in the right way. So these key things we have to learn. We have to learn how to run a team effectively and really well. And we're not born with these things. We're born with the ability to do them, but we have to learn the techniques. And that's a lot what we teach within our mastery workshops, within our sort of coaching sessions. And also from each other. We've all made mistakes. It's good to learn from other people's mistakes rather than your own. Our third area then is systems and technology. That unsuccessful people spend much time to save money. And in the early days, that's what you have to do. When you're building your business, you don't have money, so you have to spend time. As we grow, we learn that actually what we've got to do is invest our money to actually save our time. So I've had a number of clients that we've installed high-level accountancy, MRP systems, manufacturing systems. Andy, you'll know about these. To actually automate the whole process. Now, the time and money it's gone into those is probably about 2 years and about £150,000. Okay, of profit that you've made has to go back into the business, because that gives us a multiple. Takes a multiple from 2 or 3 up to 4 to 5. If we've got those systems that are robust enough to work. So we've got to systemize, the business so it runs without you. That is our definition of a business, a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. If it doesn't work without you, all you've got is a job. because you have to work. We're building a business that actually works so that you don't have to. So again, we look at the areas of the business. So use technology in sales and marketing, CRM systems. I know, Damien, we're talking about for you using a system called HubSpot, which is actually free.
Yeah.
I use a Salesforce, which is one of the world's leaders, and I use it to about 1% of its capability. So it's finding the right one for each business and actually using it to actually make it work for you. Finance and admin, Chris, you'll know this, QuickBooks, Sage, FreshBooks, Xero, if you're big, Andy, SAP, those sorts of things start to come in. Okay, but it's finding the right one for that particular side. Operations, you're then into MRP, ERP systems. You're into things like Paymo, project management, all of these things that help the operations to work. In the old days, you had to do it on pieces of paper and things like that, and manual systems. But now, there's no reason why we shouldn't do it on a computer system, and all cloud-based, so we don't even have to invest in the servers that we once did. It's just a subscription that you pay once a month. And then the people, there are things like Breathe HR that will actually do all the people side of things. Payroll's already done, I expect, but the systems to actually manage our people for us. Okay, so it's building these systems and processes in so that actually our business, other people are running the business using these systems. The beauty of having this, if you've got an individual that isn't working and they're not quite pulling their weight, we don't have the fear of, well, if we get rid of them, well, they're the only people that know how to run the system. Well, if they're using an off-the-shelf system, I'll just get somebody else and train them up. So therefore, we're not relying on any one individual. Therefore, our multiple is going to be that much higher. So systemizing is our number 3. Our 4th area then is finance mastery, that we've got to know the numbers within our business. And there are 7 must-haves to my mind. The first one is you've got to have an accounting package. I know Damien, we're going to get there. Damien's still on spreadsheets, but he's got very, very good spreadsheets. I must admit, I don't mind keeping people on spreadsheets. They know how to use them. But the problem with that is the only person that can use them is you. And we've got to get this so that somebody else can use this.
I'm willing if somebody shows me how to use it.
Well, then we might well use Chris, because that's what Chris can do.
Happy to help.
We've got to have monthly P&L accounts, by the second week of the month after. We've got to have a balance sheet. You can't run a business just on a P&L account. You've got to understand how to read a balance sheet as well. Okay, so you've got to start to get that knowledge. So we do all this in our finance mastery workshop. You've got to be looking, if you're selling on credit, your age debtors, age creditors, credit control. I know, Chris, you do that for some clients as well.
Yeah.
It's much easier for Chris to do that for you than doing it yourself, because you've got a relationship with your customers that you like to keep. Chris doesn't care. Well, she does, but she can pretend not to care. So somebody else is chasing the debt. They can be hard, and you go, oh yeah, well, don't worry about Chris. She's a nice lady, really. She's not always a dragon that comes after you. We've got a debt collector, that eventually needs to go to a debt collection process. So it's all about the process. It's not about the emotion that goes behind these things. We've got to be able to do cash flow forecasts, project when the cash runs out. If things don't change, certainly now over COVID, this has been so fundamental. Clients that have been good at cash flow forecasting have survived much, much better than those that have got no idea. And annual budgets. Budgeting for me is setting the targets of what we want to do, gives us the visibility, gives us something to compare our progress to. And then we go into key performance indicators, okay, into the real minutiae of the business, because what gets measured gets improved. And your business is like a game. It's a game that we're playing, no different to a game of golf. If I go out and playing golf tomorrow, and I'll be keeping score. And if I really wanted to improve my score, I would be breaking those numbers down into more detailed numbers. So I'd be looking at the number of putts I make, the number of drives onto fairways, the number of greens in regulation, the number of sand saves, the number of up and downs. And then I'd look at those numbers and I'd see which one I'm strong at, which one I'm weak at, and then I'd actually go and practice the ones I'm weak at. That's what the pros do all the time. Now, I don't take my golf as seriously as that, so I'll probably turn up, play some golf and have a beer and go home. But if I do that, my golf is not going to improve, is it? I'm going to be the same handicap this time next year if I have that mentality. Yeah. And that's what I see in business, is businesses that get stuck and they're okay at that sub £1 million, is they treat their business the same way as I would treat my golf. They turn up, they play it, they go home, they have a beer. They're not interested in actually breaking it down and looking for those marginal gains. And if you look into the English cycling team, I mean, the guy that won the Tour of Spain that was on last week, you know, he's part of the team. Giro Italia, was it? Part of the team, you know, wasn't expected to win, but their whole team is built on this concept of marginal gains. You know, David Braceford, you know, just incessant on breaking things down, building them up, looking for those improvements. And that's what that 5 ways model is based on, marginal gains. You know, not just increasing profit, increasing leads, increasing sales, conversion, increasing number of transactions. So to summarize then, the first thing we need to look at is, why do you want to be more than $1 million turnover? It's easy to say, yeah, I want a £1 million business, but why? If the why isn't big enough, then you will not do what it takes to actually get there. If your why is big enough, and that's, yes, it is, then we've got to set the goals. We've got to look at the 5-year goals, the 3-year goals, the 1-year goal, and then break that down into a 90-day plan. So all of our clients, Damien, you've got yours. We work into a 90-day plan. It's on a Gantt chart. It's a very simple tool that we use. But yeah, how have you found that sort of first one, Damien? Is it?
I'll be honest. I'm probably obviously I bought to do this 10 days ago, a week and a half ago. Yeah. I've made some progress, but I've probably had quite a busy week and a half, 2 weeks.
Not that I don't need to sort of doing it, actually doing the plan itself, actually having it written down.
It was useful. It got me thinking.
Yeah.
I see you more of a catalyst, and it helps me to think rather than I think that's one thing Claire struggles with. You're not there to do the job, you're there to catalyze me to do it.
Yeah, that's I would definitely say, you know, coaching is a catalyst. It's to get you to think and act differently. But the plan, you know, the fact that you've got a plan now means that I can hold you accountable to the plan. You said you were going to do this, and every time we meet, you know, twice a month we meet. Damien, where are you with the plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, yeah, I'll hold you account. You know, am I going to beat you over the head if you don't do it? No, you're an adult. You know.
Yeah.
If you want this, you'll do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You know,
as long as I'm seeing positive progress, then.
Exactly. But we've got something, you know, because you will get sidetracked and things happen. But when we meet next week, you know, you go back to plan. I did this. I didn't do this.
I've done my profit and loss.
You've done very well. I'd say I've had three emails this week of things you have done. So, you know, it's clearly working on that basis. So set the goals. Then we need to focus on the 5 ways to increase the profits. So how are we going to generate the profits in the business? What are we going to do on those multipliers to improve, identify your USP, build the team? What are we going to systemize? How are we going to measure it? Okay, and that's really what I do with clients when we start. We do a plan, you know, either a mini plan, which could be focused on one of those areas, or a bigger plan where we'd focus on all of them. So then we focus pretty much just on sales and marketing, didn't we, for you?
Yeah, that's
a bit of finance, but it was mainly on the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And to really think about that, what is the end game here? You know, what do I want to sell this for? Where do I want to get to? So how can I help you with this? You know, because you can do this on your own, but it's a bit like you can climb Mount Everest on your own if you want to. but I probably wouldn't recommend it. So same thing for this. You can build a business on your own, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it. You're going to need help and support at some stage in that journey. So what I can help you with is to help you set those goals and formulate that plan. That's always a starting point. That can be a one-off, and then you can go off on your own and do that. Or you can come onto one of our programs where I can help educate you and the team to get that growth and improvement you need. And we run workshops twice a month. We have the book club. We have a lot of internal resources to help with that learning. And then key thing that really makes it work then is the implementation of the plan. It's providing you support, focus, and that accountability. Those are the real three things that coaching does: formulate the goal, educate you, and help you with the implementation. And that's really what makes things work. So if you are interested, then I do offer a complimentary business review where we'll look at those numbers you set down. What was your financial freedom figure, work back what size of business it needs, what it needs to look like, and then we can look at, can we actually grow this business? Is this the right business? It's a bit like a car. If you wanted to go to Scotland, would you start off with a clapped out Mini? The business might not be able to get you to where you want to be, so we might need to upgrade the business 2 or 3 times in the journey. You might find, actually, I'm sitting on a Ferrari that I didn't really realize I was sitting on, and we just need to tune it up to actually get you there. And then if all of those work, then we can look to put you on a coaching program that actually gets you there. As I said, coaching programs start from, book club is £50 a month, up to my sort of signature programs at sort of £3,500 a month. But really, for a business that's going from where it is to sort of about $1 million, is around about sort of £350 a month, something like that. So and as I said to Damien when he started, my goal, we have a guarantee that we will grow your business by at least what you invest in the coaching. So my goal with Damien is to, whatever he's invested, is to make sure that our plans are there to get him that amount of business in. I think for you, Damien, was it 1 client a quarter?
Yep.
Yeah. So I've got to help Damien get one new client a quarter, and then I'm paid for. All the other clients that we get are Damien's. And that's really what I work with my clients. And that's why I think I keep clients for many years, because they're on that growth path. And we're always adding value to that journey. As soon as they stop growing, and they're happy where they are, then that's fine. I'm job done. I'm off. I'll leave you to it. So future starts now. The only thing stopping you building £1 million business is you. Nothing else. It's not customers. It's not your finance. It's nothing else. It's about, do you want it, and are you good enough to get it? Your do have. And that's really, if you can do it on your own, fabulous. If you want a bit of help, then I'm here to help you. So that's, blimey, that's probably a first for me, that my first ever version of this, as I've finished bang on time. So any questions, guys? Anything that's sort of cropped up that you want to ask me while we're here?
No.
Would you be prepared to share a couple of your slides?
If you email me which ones you want, Chris, then I will happy to sort of send sort of a PDF of them, or the slide itself. Yeah.
Lovely, thanks, Kevin.
Okay. So I know, so Damien, I'm obviously we're already engaged in this, so hopefully this is giving you a bit more of an insight. Andy, I'll catch up with you sort of in the next day or so. And Chris, we've known each other for a while now, so we'll. I'm ready when you are. So you just shout when you want to get cracking with this, and I will hopefully see you soon and say thanks for coming along. But after all that's said and done, more often said than never done. So the big thing from this is, in some shape or form, take some action, do something, start on that journey, and obviously buy my audio book when it's out on sale next week. So cheers, guys. Have a good weekend when it comes.
Tomorrow morning.
Yes.
I didn't get time to read the book. However, I am halfway through the audio version.
Okay.
of it. I've been listening to it today,
Good.
so I won't have heard it all, but I've heard
No,
about
no,
half.
we'll probably only get a couple of chapters done because it's a big book. So I'm probably going to do it over the next 3 months.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
my aim is to get the first 3 chapters in.
Yeah, as I said,
Keep
I
it
started
that
on your
way.
book, so my goal was 1 book a month, but this is my 2nd book this month.
Fabulous. See, that's what we like, overachieving.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers,
Have a
guys.
good evening.
Have a good one. Bye for
Right.
now.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good evening.